I'm Adam. And I'm Acorn.
And this is Where There's a Williams, There's a Way.
Hey, Acorn, do you ever wonder what it was like to live in a different era? You mean like the Victorian times, the Roaring Twenties, or the early noughts? Sure. I've wondered what it was like before the internet. I was alive then. What were you wondering? Was the world in black and white then? No, the world didn't look any different. We just didn't have access to information quite as fast. That's when people watched the news, read newspapers, or went to the library. I still go to the library. Me too. That's one thing that I'm glad hasn't changed. Newspapers were kind of like websites that were delivered to your house, right? I guess so. I never thought about it that way, but it is pretty true. There were things that you wanted to read. For me, it was the sports section and comics. Then there were advertisements and a bunch of sections that I didn't care about. Did they have a special section for selfies? No, they didn't. In today's book, Pepe lived in a time where he worked as a lamplighter, a job that doesn't even exist anymore. Let's get started. Pepe the Lamplighter by Elisa Bartone. Illustrations by Ted Lewin. A long time ago, when there was no electricity and the street lamps in Little Italy had to be lit by hand, Pepe lived in a tenement on Mulberry Street. His father was sick and his mother was dead, and so, though he was just a boy, he had to work to help support his sister. Juliana, Adelina, Nicolina, Angelina, Assunta, Mariacucha, Filomena, and Albina, who lived in Naples with her uncle, the priest, and took care of orphans. Pepe tried hard to find a job. I could sweep the floor and put new sawdust down, he told Gennaro, the butcher. Sorry, Pepe, business has been slow, Gennaro answered. I could wash the glasses, he told Don Salvatore, the bartender. Maybe when you're older, Pepe, said Don Salvatore. I could help make the torrone and string the hazelnuts, he told Comare Antionetta, the candy maker. Sorry, Pepe, she answered. He even went to Fat Mary, the cigar maker. I could count the cigars and put them in boxes, he told her, but she didn't need him either. Then one day he met Domenico, the lamplighter, on the street. I heard from Don Salvatore that you're looking for a job, the lamplighter said. I'm going back to Italy to get my wife. Will you light the lamps while I'm gone and save my job for me? Oh, yes, Domenico, thank you, Pepe answered. Then he ran all the way home, anxious to share his good news. I don't understand the point of the job. As a lamplighter? Yeah, why didn't they just use street lights? The one outside my house comes on every night at about 9 o'clock. This book takes place before people had electricity in their houses. Electricity hadn't been invented yet? I thought that had always been around. In America, half of the houses still didn't have electricity in 1925. I still don't understand why they needed lamplighters. Look at all the people hustling and bustling in the city. Exactly. There are plenty of people around, but imagine none of them can see at night. It could be dangerous. So they had oil lamps placed all around the streets. So 100 years ago, they paid kids to go around and start fires? Yeah, you got it right. That sounds like a pretty amazing job. They got paid about $2 a day. A day? Are you sure they didn't mean a lamp? Never mind, I take it back. Papa, Nicolina, Mariacucha, I have a job, he shouted. Beginning tomorrow, I will light the street lamps. Nicolina hugged him. Mariacucha kissed his cheeks. Assunta hopped up and down and clapped her hands. But Papa sat silent and still, his face like stone. Did I come to America for my son to light the street lamps? He said. Then he walked out, slamming the door behind him. Pepe hung his head. Don't mind him, said Filomena. He's sick. He doesn't realize what he's saying, said Angelina. Papa loves you, said Adelina. It's a good job, Pepe, said Assunta. Pepe tugged gently on Assunta's hair and smiled at them, but he did not really feel like smiling. Each evening at twilight, Pepe took a long stick of the lamplighter and passed through the streets. He reached high for the first street lamp, poked open the glass, and set the lamp aflame. Then one by one he lit them all, and each one Pepe imagined to be a small flame of promise for the future. What a joyful feeling it was to light the street lamps. It was almost like lighting candles in the church for special favors from the saints. This one is for Julia. May she have the chance to marry well. This is for Adelina. May she have the dress she likes. This is for work for Nicolina and the biscuit company. Piecework for Angelina, for many gloves to sew. This so that Asunta learns good English in the school. Good pay to embroider I wish for Mariucha. And for Filomena, may she learn to like New York. This for Albina, for strength to help the orphans. This for my mother, may she look on us with pleasure. And this one for Papa, may heaven help his heart. And this one for me, that I will always be able to help Dominica light the lamps. Once when Pepe got home, Papa was watching from the window. You belong to the streets, he shouted. Pepe sat on the stoop way past his bedtime, then cried himself to sleep when no one would hear. In the morning, his shoulders drooped just a little. Hey, Pepe, don't look so sad, Fat Mary teased, and Pepe tried not to. But Papa stayed angry. You'll never amount to anything, he grumbled. Julia took Pepe's hands in hers. Don't worry about it, she told him. Pepe, look up when you walk, Nicolina reminded him as he left for work.
Why is Pepe's dad so mean?
I don't know. It seems like he's sad because his wife had died, but that doesn't give you a reason to be mean to people.
It's nice to be nice. That's what the t-shirts say. And why does he hate the fact that Pepe has a job lighting lamps?
He seems to be embarrassed of the job.
Why? I didn't have a job when I was a kid. My parents would have been happy if I was doing anything except playing video games.
Same here. My first job was delivering newspapers. I didn't make a lot, but it was something.
Again with the newspapers? At least you had electricity in your house, right?
Yes, I had electricity. Pepe tried, but when he came home, Papa turned away. I don't even want to look at you. You make me so ashamed, he said. You never play with me anymore, Pepe, said Asunta. Pepe just lowered his eyes and didn't answer. And from then on, he rushed through the lighting of the lamps, sometimes forgetting which was which. It's a stupid job, he said to himself, and he began to imagine that the people in the neighborhood laughed behind his back. Soon, he would not show his face outside the tenement. And one night, the streets of Little Italy were dark. Where is Pepe the Lamplighter? Said the people to one another. Pepe sat in the kitchen, his head in his arms, and on that night, Asunta did not come home. Julia kept glancing out the window. Adelina let the macaroni cook too long. Papa walked back and forth, back and forth. He didn't eat much dinner and pushed away his coffee without taking one sip. Dove mia bambina, they heard him mutter. No matter how big she got, Asunta would always be his baby. Finally he spoke. Pepe, he pleaded, don't be stubborn. Light the lamps. Pepe couldn't believe what he was hearing. But I can't light the lamps, Papa, he said. I don't want to belong to the streets. I don't want to grow up to be a beggar. You brought us to America to do better things. I have to study to be a doctor, maybe. The streets are dark, Pepe, said Papa. Asunta is frightened. Tonight the job of lamplighter is an important job. Please, Pepe, light the lamps. You will make me proud. Pepe could not refuse his father. Quietly, he put on his coat and collected his things. Outside, he reached high for the first street lamp and set it aflame. Then one by one, he lit them all. Each time he whispered, May Asunta be safe tonight. At last, behind the last street lamp, the one that Pepe always lit for himself, he found her. She huddled against it, unable to move for fear of the dark. He picked her up. Why didn't you light the lamps for us tonight, Pepe? She asked. I'm sorry, Asunta, he answered. Pepe, when I'm bigger, I want to be like you. I want to light the street lamps. I think it must be the best job in America." "The best job?" said Pepe, wondering. "You scare the dark away," Assunta told him. Pepe smiled and held her tighter. He glanced up at the last street lamp. "You can light this lamp tonight, Assunta." He helped her hold the stick. On the way home, Assunta fell asleep in Pepe's arms. As Pepe walked, he held his head up, and his eyes were bright again. Pepe walked into the tenement and climbed the stairs to their apartment. Assunta was still sleeping. 6 sisters ran to embrace them both. Then they had to make room for their father. For the first time in a long time, he put his hand on Pepe's shoulder. "It's a good job, Pepe," he said. "Light the lamps. You make me proud." So Pepe lit the street lamps once again, pretending with all his might that each one was a small flame of promise for tomorrow, like it used to be.
You know what I noticed in these books about immigrant kids? That they're hard workers? Nope. That they appreciate all the things that they have, even if it isn't a lot? Nope. That they have big family units that support each other? Nope. Then what? What do you notice about these books? That they don't talk about hot sauce enough. What does that have to do with immigrant kids? Nothing really, but they should probably talk about hot sauce more. That doesn't make any sense, unless these are the kids of hot sauce makers. Yeah, an artisan hot sauce maker that moved their family to America to make it big. I like it. That's weird. But speaking of liking things, if you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'm Adam. And I'm Acorn.
And this is Where There's a Williams, There's a Way.
Did you know? In 1802, London became the first city in the world to use gas lamps. Today, there are still around 1,500 of them there. They are no longer lit every night. Instead, automatic timers are used. Before timers, lamps were lit with 8-foot brass poles with a pilot light.